My name is Jessica Lee. I'm 30 years old. And right now, I'm standing in the middle of a perfectly decorated backyard engagement party, holding a glass of champagne that suddenly feels too heavy in my hand, because the man I'm about to marry just lied about me in front of everyone. Not a small lie, not the kind you laugh off and correct later. The kind of lie that changes how people see you and makes you question whether the person standing next to you even knows who you are. It happened so casually that for a second, I thought I misheard him. We were standing near the long white table covered in flowers and candles. His parents had invited about 30 people, close friends, family, a few colleagues. Everything was elegant, controlled, perfect, just like his mother likes it. His father had just asked me a simple question, the kind of question people always ask when they're trying to get to know you. "So Jessica," he said, smiling politely, "what exactly do you do?" I opened my mouth. I was ready. I've answered this question 100 times. I actually enjoy it. Because I worked hard to get where I am. But before I could say a single word, Ethan stepped slightly forward beside me, resting his hand lightly on my back like he always does when he's about to help. "She works in marketing," he said smoothly. "For a small company in the city, mostly administrative stuff, but she enjoys it." There was a pause, just a second, but in that second, something inside me dropped. Administrative, small company. I slowly turned my head and looked at him. He didn't look at me. He just smiled at his parents like he had done something perfectly normal. Like he hadn't just erased 5 years of my life in one sentence. I felt my grip tighten around the glass, because that's not what I do, not even close. I'm a senior brand strategist at one of the fastest-growing digital agencies in Chicago. I manage campaigns for major clients. I lead a team of 6 people. I've worked nights, weekends, sacrificed relationships, sleep, everything to build a career I'm proud of. And he knows that. He's celebrated my promotions. He's watched me take calls at midnight. He's told people, my people, how proud he is of me. So why did he just shrink me into something smaller? His mother nodded approvingly. "Oh, that's nice," she said, in that tone that sounds polite but means dismissive. "It's good to have something stable and not too demanding, especially for a woman." A few people nearby smiled. Someone took a sip of their drink. The conversation moved on, just like that. Like my life had been summarized and filed away. I forced a small smile because what else do you do in that moment? Cause a scene, correct him in front of everyone. I told myself maybe there was a reason, maybe I misunderstood, but the feeling didn't go away. It stayed there, sitting heavy in my chest, as the evening continued. About 20 minutes later, I found Ethan near the drinks table. He was laughing with one of his friends, relaxed, completely normal, like nothing had happened. I waited until his friend walked away, then stepped closer. "Hey," I said quietly. He turned, smiling. "Hey, you okay?" I held his gaze. "Why did you say that?" He blinked. "Say what?" "That I do administrative work. That I work at a small company." His smile shifted slightly, like I was making something bigger than it needed to be. "Oh, that," he said, waving his hand lightly. "It's just easier." "Easier," I repeated. "Yeah," he said. "My parents don't really understand all the corporate stuff you do, and honestly, it's better if things sound a little simpler." Simpler. I stared at him. "You didn't simplify it," I said, my voice still calm but tighter now. "You changed it." He sighed like I was being difficult. "Jess, come on, it's not a big deal." Not a big deal. That phrase, I've learned something about that phrase. It's usually said by the person who just made it a big deal. I crossed my arms slightly. "It is a big deal to me," I said. He leaned in a little closer, lowering his voice. "Look," he said, "my parents are very traditional. They don't like women who are too aggressive in their careers. It makes them uncomfortable." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Too aggressive," I repeated. "You know what I mean," he said quickly. "High-powered, always working, always busy. They think it affects family life." "And you agree with them?" I asked. He hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. "I just think," he started, choosing his words carefully, "that there's no reason to create tension when we don't have to." tension. So my success is tension now. My career is something to smooth over, hide, adjust, so his parents feel comfortable. I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time that night. And suddenly, something didn't feel right. Not just what he said, but how easily he said it, how natural it seemed for him to rewrite me. You could have let me answer, I said quietly. He shrugged. I was just helping. Helping. I nodded slowly, even though nothing about this felt like help. Right, I said. There was a silence between us, not loud, but noticeable. Then his mother called out from across the yard, Ethan. Come here, we're cutting the cake. He glanced over, then back at me. Can we not do this right now? He said softly. Let's just enjoy the night. Enjoy the night. Like I could just switch off what I was feeling, like it didn't matter. I forced another small smile. Yeah, I said, sure. But as he walked away, I stayed where I was, watching him. Watching the way he slipped back into that perfect son role. Watching how easily he fit into the version of life his parents expected. And for the first time since we got engaged, I had a question I couldn't ignore. Not about his parents, not about the party, but about him. Who exactly am I marrying? The cake cutting should have been a happy moment. That's what it looked like from the outside. Soft music playing, string lights glowing overhead. Everyone gathered around with their phones out, smiling like they were watching the beginning of something perfect. Ethan stood beside me, one hand resting lightly at my waist again, like earlier. Like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just rewritten my entire life in one sentence. Smile, his mother said, already holding up her phone. I did, out of habit, out of conditioning. Out of years of knowing when not to make things awkward. The knife slid through the cake. People clapped. Someone cheered. His mother laughed in that high, satisfied way that said everything was going exactly how she wanted. Ethan picked up a small piece of cake with his fork and turned toward me. Ladies first, he said, smiling. I leaned forward slightly, let him feed me the bite, and tasted nothing. Just sugar and something bitter underneath it. Your turn, I said, holding up my fork. He leaned in, took the bite, and for a moment, everything looked normal again. Like a photo. Like a story you post online with a caption that says perfect night. But something inside me had already shifted, and once something shifts like that, it doesn't go back. About an hour later, the party had settled into smaller conversations. Groups formed. Laughter rose and fell in different corners of the yard. The music got softer. I found myself sitting at the edge of the patio, nursing the same glass of champagne I hadn't finished. That's when his mother sat down beside me. Close, too close. She didn't look at me right away. Just smoothed her dress, adjusted her bracelet like she was preparing for something. Then she turned. You seem a little quiet tonight, Jessica, she said. Her tone was gentle, but there was something underneath it. Measured, observing. I'm fine, I said, giving a polite smile. She studied me for a second longer than necessary, then nodded slightly like she had expected that answer. You know, she continued, Ethan tells us you're very driven. There was that word again. Not ambitious, not successful, driven, like it was something that needed to be managed. I care about my work, I said simply. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of course, she said. That's good up to a point. I felt my shoulders tighten, up to a point. And after that point, I asked, keeping my voice even. She tilted her head slightly. Well, she said, lowering her voice just a bit, marriage requires balance. Priorities shift, especially for a woman. There it was, not subtle anymore, not hidden, clear, direct. I looked at her. Really looked at her, at the perfectly styled hair, the controlled posture, the calm confidence of someone who has always been listened to. Balance goes both ways, I said. Her smile sharpened just slightly. Yes, she said, in theory. A small silence stretched between us. Then she added, almost casually, Ethan has always needed stability. Someone who won't challenge his lifestyle too much. That word, challenge, like loving him and being equal to him couldn't exist at the same time. I don't think supporting someone means becoming smaller, I said. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. Of course not, she said smoothly. But sometimes compromise looks like knowing when to step back. Step back, that's what this was about. Not misunderstanding, not simplifying, control. They didn't want to understand me. They wanted to reshape me. And suddenly, Ethan's words earlier made perfect sense. It's just easier. Easier for who? Before I could respond, Ethan's voice cut in. There you are, he said, walking over. I've been looking for you. He placed a hand on my shoulder, light, but now it felt different, like guidance, like positioning. His mother stood. I'll leave you too, she said, giving him a knowing look before walking away. I watched her go, then turned to him. What did you tell her about me? I asked. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? She thinks I need to step back, Ethan. He exhaled, already looking tired of the conversation. Jess, she's just old-fashioned. That's not an answer, I said. He rubbed the back of his neck. I told her you work a lot, he admitted. That sometimes it's intense. Intense, I repeated. Yeah, he said quickly, but not in a bad way. Just busy, I let out a small breath. And the part where I'm successful, I asked. Where I lead a team, where I've built something. He hesitated again. That hesitation was becoming familiar. I just didn't think it mattered to them, he said. It matters to me. The words sat in my chest, heavy. You didn't think I mattered in that conversation, I said quietly. That's not fair, he replied. Isn't it? I asked. His jaw tightened slightly. You're overthinking this, he said, and there it was again. Another pattern, minimize, deflect, redirect. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. I'm finally thinking about it clearly. He looked at me like he didn't recognize that version of me, like this wasn't the girl who usually let things go. Why are you making this a bigger issue than it is? He asked. Because it's not just about tonight. It's about what tonight revealed. You answered for me, I said. You changed who I am to make things easier for you. For us, he corrected. I held his gaze. No, I said, for you. That landed. I saw it, just for a second. Then his expression hardened slightly. I was trying to protect the situation, he said. From what? I asked. From conflict, he replied. I nodded slowly. But the conflict didn't disappear, I said. You just moved it on to me. Silence. He didn't respond, because there wasn't a good answer. In the distance, someone called his name again. Another group, another conversation waiting, another version of him that fit perfectly. He glanced over, then back at me. Can we please not ruin tonight, he said. Ruin. I looked around. At the lights, the smiles, the carefully curated perfection, and I realized something. Tonight wasn't being ruined, it was being revealed. I'm not ruining anything, I said quietly. I'm just not pretending anymore. He stared at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he didn't know what to say. The party kept going. That was the strangest part. Nothing stopped. No dramatic silence. No music cutting off. No one gathering to ask if everything was okay. From the outside, it still looked like a perfect engagement party. But inside me, something had already broken alignment. And once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. I stepped away from Ethan and walked toward the far edge of the yard, near the fence where the lights didn't reach as brightly. I needed air. Space. A moment where no one was watching me, measuring me, quietly deciding what version of me they preferred. I had just taken a breath when I heard a voice behind me. Jessica, I turned. It was his father. He walked over slowly, hands in his pockets, his expression calm but serious in a way that felt very different from earlier. Do you mind if I join you? He asked. I nodded. Of course. He stood beside me, looking out toward the yard instead of directly at me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he said something I didn't expect. You don't work in administration, do you? I let out a small breath. No, I said, I don't. He nodded like that confirmed something. I didn't think so, he said. That caught my attention. I turned slightly toward him. What made you think that? I asked. He gave a faint smile. The way you carry yourself, he said. People who have built something, they stand differently. That hit deeper than I expected, because it was the first honest recognition I'd felt all night. I'm a senior brand strategist, I said. I lead campaigns, I manage a team. He nodded again. That makes more sense. There was no judgment in his voice, no discomfort, just acceptance of the truth, which made everything else feel even more intentional. Then, why didn't you say anything earlier? I asked. He glanced toward the center of the party where Ethan was laughing with a group of guests. Because, he said carefully, I wanted to see if my son would. That landed hard. I followed his gaze. Ethan looked relaxed, confident, completely at ease. Like a man who hadn't just erased his fiancé in front of his own family. And now you've seen? I asked. His father exhaled slowly. Yes, he said. We stood in silence again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was heavy, measured. Then he said something that shifted everything again. Ethan has always been very aware of expectations. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? He looked at me now. He knows how to adjust himself depending on who he's around, he said. What to say, what not to say. What version of the truth works best? A cold feeling crept into my chest. What version of the truth? I repeated quietly. He nodded. It's something his mother encouraged, he added. That didn't surprise me, not after tonight. But here's the part you should think about, he continued. I waited. He doesn't just adjust himself, his father said. He adjusts the people around him too. Silence, sharp, clear silence, because that's exactly what had happened tonight. And suddenly it didn't feel like a one-time thing. It felt like a pattern. Has he done this before? I asked. His father didn't answer immediately, that hesitation again. I was starting to recognize it in this family. When the truth is there, but people are deciding how much of it they're willing to admit. He's simplified things before, he said finally. Simplified, that word again. Except now it sounded different. He wasn't defending it, he was naming it. My mind started moving quickly now, replaying moments. Small ones, ones I had ignored at the time. The way Ethan would introduce me differently depending on the crowd. Jessica works in marketing to some people. She's really creative to others. Sometimes just, she works in the city. I had never questioned it deeply. I thought it was just casual conversation, normal variation. But now it felt like something else. Like pieces of me were being edited depending on what fit best. Why are you telling me this? I asked. His father held my gaze. Because you deserve to know who you're about to marry, he said. No softness, no sugarcoating, just truth. And for the second time that night, it felt like someone had handed me clarity instead of a performance. Before I could respond, I heard Ethan's voice again, closer this time. Dad, Jess, we both turned. He walked up to us, smiling, but it faded slightly when he looked between us. What's going on? He asked. Just talking, his father said calmly. Ethan's eyes shifted to me. You okay? He asked. Same question as before, but now it felt different. Like he wasn't asking how I felt, he was checking if things were still under control. I'm thinking, I said. His jaw tightened slightly. About, he asked. I held his gaze. About who you are when you think no one's paying attention. That hit, I saw it. A flicker, then it was gone. You're still on this, he said, a hint of frustration creeping in. This, I repeated. You know what I mean, he said. The whole job thing. It's not about the job, I said. Then what is it about? He asked. His father stepped slightly back, giving space but not leaving. Watching. Listening, it's about honesty, I said, and control. Ethan let out a short laugh. Control, he said. Seriously. Yes, I said, because you didn't just answer for me. You reshaped me. That's dramatic, he replied. No, I said calmly. That's accurate. Silence. The air between us felt tighter now, less polite, more real. You're making this sound like I lied about something important, he said. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't react emotionally. I just said the truth. You did. That landed heavier than anything else I could have said, because it wasn't loud. It wasn't angry, it was certain. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then his father said quietly, Ethan. Just his name, nothing else, but it carried weight. Ethan looked at him, and something unspoken passed between them, something old, something practiced. Then Ethan looked back at me, and for the first time that night, he didn't try to smile. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Not me, not Ethan, not his father. The noise of the party continued behind us, laughter, glasses clinking, music playing softly, but right where we stood, it felt like everything had gone still. Ethan broke the silence first. "Can we not do this here?" he said, his voice low but tight. There it was again, not denial, not apology, control. I looked at him steadily. "When were you planning to do it?" I asked. His brow furrowed. "Do what?" "Be honest," I said, his jaw flexed. "I am being honest," he replied. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "You're being careful." That word hit him harder than the others, because it was true, and he knew it. Before he could respond, his mother's voice cut through the air again. "Ethan!" We all turned. She was walking toward us quickly now, her smile already gone. She had been watching. Of course she had. Nothing in this house happened without her noticing. "What's going on?" she asked, her eyes moving between us. No one answered immediately, so she filled the silence herself. "I leave for 5 minutes and suddenly everyone looks like there's a problem," she said lightly, but there was an edge underneath it. "There's no problem," Ethan said quickly. I glanced at him. There it was again. Control the situation, smooth it over, keep the image intact. His mother looked at me now. "Jessica," she said, "is everything all right?" Her tone was sweet. But her eyes were sharp, measuring, waiting. For me to either fall back in line or step out of it, I took a slow breath. This was the moment, I could feel it. The same kind of moment from earlier, when he answered for me, only this time it was my turn. "No," I said, the word was quiet, but it cut clean, her smile froze. "Excuse me," she said. I said no, I repeated. "Everything is not all right." Ethan shifted beside me. "Jess," he started. I held up a hand slightly, not aggressive, just enough to stop him. "No," I said again. "You don't get to speak for me this time." That landed, hard. His mother's expression changed, not dramatically, but enough. The softness dropped. "What exactly is the issue?" she asked, her voice cooler now. I looked at her, then at Ethan, then back at her. "The issue," I said, "is that your son just introduced me to you as someone I'm not." Silence. Thick. Immediate. Even the noise from the party seemed to fade for a second. Her eyes flicked to Ethan. He didn't speak, didn't correct me, didn't step in. That told her everything. "I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding," she said smoothly. "No," I replied. "It was." She straightened slightly. "Then explain it to me," she said, so I did. "I'm not an administrative assistant," I said. "I'm a senior brand strategist. I lead campaigns, I manage people. I've spent years building a career I'm proud of." I didn't raise my voice, I didn't rush, I just told the truth. Clearly, directly, unapologetically. Her face stayed composed, but I saw it. That flicker, that discomfort. Not confusion, not surprise, disapproval. "You don't have to make it sound so intense," she said carefully. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was exactly what I expected. "I'm not making it sound like anything," I said. "That's what it is." She shook her head slightly. "Well, that kind of lifestyle can be difficult," she said. "For who?" I asked. "For a marriage," she replied. There it was again, not hidden anymore, not softened, clear, direct, limiting. "And that's why he changed it?" I asked, glancing at Ethan. She didn't answer right away, because the truth was obvious. Finally, she said, "We simply don't believe in unnecessary complications." "Unnecessary," I nodded slowly. "So I'm a complication now." "No," she said quickly. "But your lifestyle could become one." I held her gaze. "And instead of talking to me about that," I said, "you both decided to edit me." Ethan stepped in now. "Jess, it wasn't like that." I looked at him. "It was like that," I said. He stopped, because again, there wasn't a good defense. His mother's voice hardened slightly. "We were trying to make a good impression," she said. "By lying?" I asked. "By simplifying," she corrected. I shook my head. "No," I said, "by controlling the narrative." That word again, control. This time it didn't just land on Ethan. It landed on her too, and she didn't like it. "You're being very confrontational," she said. "And you're being very comfortable rewriting who I am," I replied. Silence, sharp, uncomfortable, real. Around us, a few people had started to notice. Conversations slowed. Eyes drifted in our direction. The perfect image was cracking. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "This is getting out of hand," he muttered. "No," I said calmly. "This is finally being honest." He looked at me, really looked this time. Not trying to manage the situation. Not trying to smooth it over, just looking. And I saw it. For the first time, not confidence, not control, uncertainty. "Why is this such a big deal to you?" he asked. That question, that exact question. And suddenly, everything became clear, because if he had to ask that, he didn't understand me at all. "It's a big deal," I said slowly, "because you didn't just lie about what I do." I stepped slightly closer. "You showed me who you are when things don't fit your version of perfect." Silence. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue, so I continued. "You adjust people," I said. "You reshape them so they fit better into your world." His father's words echoed in my mind. He doesn't just adjust himself, he adjusts the people around him too. And I'm not something you get to adjust, I finished. That was the moment. The real moment. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. Because something had shifted completely now. Not just in the conversation. In me, Ethan looked at me like he was trying to figure out when everything changed. Like he missed the exact second where I stopped being manageable. "Jess," he said, softer now, but I shook my head, not angry, not emotional, just clear. "We'll talk later," I said. Because this conversation wasn't meant for the middle of a party anymore. It was bigger than that. And as I stepped back, I realized something that hit even harder than everything else that night. This wasn't just about what he said. It was about what he believed. I didn't go back to the center of the party. I didn't smile for any more photos. Didn't pretend everything was fine. Didn't try to fix the atmosphere that had already cracked. I walked inside the house instead, past the kitchen, past the dining room, down a quiet hallway where the noise of the party softened into a distant hum. I needed space, not just from Ethan. From everything, I ended up in a small sitting room at the back of the house. Dim light, closed curtains, a place clearly not meant for guests. Perfect. I sat down on the edge of a chair and let out a slow breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. My hands were steady. That surprised me, because inside, nothing felt steady. Not my thoughts. Not my future, not the man I was supposed to marry. About a minute later, I heard footsteps. I didn't turn. I already knew it was him. The door closed behind me with a soft click. "Jess," Ethan said. His voice was different now. No audience, no performance, just him, or at least whatever version of him existed without people watching. I looked up. "What?" I said, not sharp, not soft. Just direct. He ran a hand through his hair again, pacing once before stopping in front of me. "I don't understand why you handled it like that," he said. I stared at him. Out of everything he could have said, that's what he chose. "You don't understand," I repeated. "No," he said. "You could have just talked to me privately instead of that." "That?" I asked. "You know," he said, gesturing vaguely. "Calling it out in front of everyone, making it a whole situation." There it was again, not what he did, how I responded. I stood up slowly. "You think that is the problem?" I asked. He sighed. "I think it didn't need to go that far," he said. I nodded once. Processing, reframing, understanding something deeper now. "This didn't go far," I said quietly. "This revealed how far it already was." He frowned. "What does that even mean?" he asked. I took a step closer. "It means this isn't about one sentence, Ethan," I said. "It's about a pattern." He shook his head immediately. "There is no pattern," he said. "There is," I replied. "You just don't see it." "Then explain it to me," he said, frustration creeping in again, so I did. "You change things depending on who you're around," I said. "You soften details. You leave things out, you adjust people so everything fits perfectly." "That's normal," he said quickly. "No," I said, "it's not. Not when it changes who someone is." He opened his mouth to respond, then stopped, because part of him knew I wasn't wrong. "I was trying to make things easier," he said again. "For who?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, so I answered for him. "For you," I said, silence. "You don't like conflict," I continued. "You don't like things that don't fit your version of how life should look. That's not a bad thing, he said. It is when you start editing reality to maintain it, I replied. That hit. I saw it land. For a moment, he didn't argue, didn't deflect, didn't minimize, he just stood there, thinking. And then he said something that changed everything. My last relationship ended because of this, he said quietly. I blinked. What? I asked. He looked away. She said the same thing, he admitted, that I adjust things too much. That I avoid hard truths. A cold feeling spread through my chest. You never told me that, I said. He shrugged slightly. It didn't seem relevant, he said. Not relevant. I let out a short breath. Of course it was relevant, I said. It's exactly what we're dealing with right now. He didn't argue, because again, there was no argument. She said I made her feel like she had to fit into something, he continued. I felt my stomach drop slightly, because those words, those exact words, were what I was feeling right now. And did you? I asked. He hesitated, that hesitation again. Then, I didn't think I did, he said. Didn't think, not didn't do, didn't think. And now, I asked. He looked at me, really looked. And for the first time that night, there was no control in his expression. No smoothness, no adjustment, just uncertainty. I don't know, he said. Silence filled the room again. But this time it wasn't tense. It was real, uncomfortable, honest. I stepped back slightly, creating space because I needed it, not physically, emotionally, mentally. I can't build a life with someone who doesn't see me clearly, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me, because this was the sentence, the one that mattered most. I do see you, he said quickly. No, I replied. You see a version of me that fits your world. That's not true, he said. It is, I said. And tonight proved it. He looked like he wanted to argue, to fix it, to say something that would pull everything back into place, but nothing came. Because some things, once exposed, can't be smoothed over. What are you saying? He asked finally. There it was, the real question, not about the party, not about the argument, about us. I held his gaze, and for a moment I thought about everything. The good parts, the easy moments, the version of him I thought I knew, and then I thought about tonight, about the lie, the pattern. The truth I couldn't ignore anymore. I'm saying, I started slowly, I don't know if I can marry you. That landed heavier than anything else I'd said. Because this time there was no interpretation, no gray area, no soft version, just truth. He stared at me, like the ground had just shifted under him. Jess, he said, barely above a whisper. But I shook my head slightly, not rejecting him, just holding my ground. I need time, I said, and I meant it, not space to calm down, not time to forget. Time to decide if this relationship was built on something real or something carefully constructed. And deep down, I already knew the answer was going to change everything. I left the house without saying goodbye to anyone else. No dramatic exit, no final announcement. Just a quiet walk through the hallway, past the kitchen, past the voices and laughter that still hadn't caught up to what had just happened, and out the front door. The night air hit differently. Cooler, sharper, like stepping out of something that had been too tight for too long. I sat in my car for a full minute before turning the key, hands resting on the steering wheel, not shaking. Just still, that surprised me again, because I thought I'd feel overwhelmed. Crying, angry, confused, but instead there was something else, clarity. The kind that doesn't come all at once, but when it does, it settles quietly and refuses to leave. My phone buzzed. Ethan, I stared at the screen, let it ring, then it buzzed again, and again. Finally, I picked it up, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I did. Jess, he said immediately, relief in his voice. Where are you? In my car, I replied. Can you come back inside? He asked. We need to talk properly. We already did, I said. No, we didn't, he said quickly. That wasn't a real conversation, that was emotional. I almost smiled. Because even now, he was trying to categorize it, minimize it, put it into a box where it could be managed. It was very real, I said calmly. He exhaled. Look, he said, my parents are asking questions. This is turning into something bigger than it needs to be. There it was again. Bigger than it needs to be, not important, not serious. Just inconvenient. Ethan, I said quietly, this is already big. No, it doesn't have to be, he insisted. We can fix it. Fix it. I leaned back slightly in my seat. How? I asked, a pause. Then I'll talk to them, he said. I'll explain your job properly, we'll clear it up. I closed my eyes for a second, because he still didn't understand. It's not about explaining my job, I said. Then what is it about? He asked, frustration rising again. I opened my eyes. It's about why you felt the need to change it in the first place, I said. Silence. I told you, he said after a moment. I was trying to avoid conflict. And I told you, I replied, you created a different kind of conflict instead. He didn't respond. Because again, there was no response that would undo it. Just come back inside, he said again, softer now. Please, that word, please, for a second it almost worked. Not because it changed anything, but because it reminded me of the version of him I used to see. The easier version, the comfortable version, the one that didn't make me question everything. But that version wasn't the full picture anymore. I'm not coming back, I said, another silence, longer this time. He's not even that upset, Ethan said suddenly. My dad. He doesn't think it's a big deal. I frowned slightly, because that didn't match what I had seen. He told me I deserved to know who I'm marrying, I said. That hit. I could hear it in the way Ethan's breathing shifted. He shouldn't have said that, he muttered. No, I said quietly. He should have. More silence. Then, so what happens now? He asked. That question, the one that matters most. I looked out through the windshield, at nothing in particular, just the dark street stretching ahead. I go home, I said. And us? He asked. There it was. I took a breath, not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud made it real. I don't think we're ready for this, I said. For what? He asked, even though he knew. Marriage, I said, the word hung there, heavy, final. That's not fair, he said quickly. I nodded slightly. It's honest, I replied. You're ending this over one misunderstanding, he said. I almost laughed again, because even now he was still trying to shrink it. One misunderstanding, I repeated. That's what it is, he insisted. No, I said. It's one moment that revealed something bigger. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue, so I continued. I need someone who sees me fully, I said. Not someone who edits me to make life easier. I need someone who can handle truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And right now, I paused, not for effect, but because this part mattered. You're not that person, I finished. Silence, complete. Jess, he said again, but this time there was nothing after it. No argument, no solution, no control, just a name. I'm going home, I said. And this time I didn't wait for a response. I ended the call. The engine started. The headlights cut through the dark, and as I pulled away from the house, I didn't look back. The drive home felt different from anything I expected. No music, no distractions, just the quiet hum of the road and my thoughts settling into place. I thought about the party. The moment he spoke for me, the way his mother looked at me, the conversation in that room, and the truth that kept repeating itself, it wasn't sudden, it wasn't random, it was always there. I just hadn't seen it clearly before. When I reached my apartment, I sat in the car for another minute, not because I was unsure, but because I knew something had ended, not just an engagement. A version of my life. I walked upstairs, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Everything was exactly how I left it. Quiet, simple, mine. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Ethan. I didn't realize it mattered this much to you. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed a response. It matters because I matter. I hit send, set the phone down. And for the first time that night, I felt something solid settle inside me. Not loss, not regret, respect for myself. And sometimes that's the beginning of everything.